friends, and welcome back to the Liz Moody Podcast. If I have learned anything in my years of doing this job, it's that happiness is a practice. There's not a single circumstance or a place that you get to in your life that suddenly makes you lastingly happy. We're actually going to talk about an antidote to that specific thought later in this episode. If you've ever found yourself thinking, when I meet my partner, I'll be happier. When I have a house or this much money, I will be happy. Over and over again, happiness experts come on the podcast and reiterate that our happiness is the result of thousands of tiny conscious and unconscious choices that we make daily. And I have experienced the power of that in my own life. So today, I'm going to share some of the habits, some of the hacks that I feel like make the biggest difference. These are all quick to do. They are all free. They all have great science behind them, and they all work pretty much immediately, which is like the Liz Moody quadfecta. Is that a word? I don't know. But it's what we like here at the Liz Moody Podcast. We like actionable, we like accessible, and we like effective. I also am really going to try to highlight things that you haven't heard before because I, for one, am frankly sick of hearing the same 3 or 4 pieces of advice over and over again. I also want to say that happiness does not come easily to me. I can get to a place of feeling joy, of feeling contentment and peace, but it feels like it takes a lot of work to get me there, which is something that I often feel a lot of frustration with, if I am being honest. I've always been jealous of people that happiness comes more easily to, people who wake up and have a smile on their face and are like dressed by forest animals, but that is not how my brain works. The silver lining of that is that it makes me an excellent person to test all of these happiness hacks and report back on the ones that actually work. Because if they are effective for me with my base state leaning more toward depressive, there is a very good chance that they will be effective for you as well. Okay, so let's jump right into it. Hack 1, savoring. I have come across different iterations of this at various points in my life. There's actually a tip in my book, which is called 100 Ways to Change Your Life, if you are unfamiliar, that's based on Dr. Rick Hanson's work around rewiring our brains to feel more joy on a daily basis. Essentially, his technique is to first notice good things, whether it's a beautiful tree or a great conversation or a delicious bowl of fruity pebbles. And then you want to amplify the good feelings, like really feel into them. And then step 3 is you linger in those feelings for around 5 seconds. Because neurons that fire together wire together, meaning the more that you use certain neural pathways, the more likely your brain will be to take those neural pathways in the future. Taking the time to savor and notice the joy makes your brain more likely to unconsciously savor and notice the joy in the future. And then the same concept came up again in the Jhana meditation retreat that Zach and I did in the fall. A huge part of that practice is meditating on objects of joy. So you're always trying to notice and be present in those feelings. And then it kept coming up in podcast episodes that I did with sex experts who were basically like, our ability to feel pleasure in the bedroom directly impacts and is impacted by us practicing pleasure outside of the bedroom. So from all of these different angles, we basically have the same key takeaway. Be on the lookout for joy and pleasure in your life. And when you find it, sit in it, savor it. And that will rewire your brain to feel happier on a daily basis. I thought this was really cool when I first heard about it, but if I'm being honest, I did not do it. I need a little bit more structure to actually accomplish things. So there are 2 ways that I have pushed this a step further that I have found really helpful. First of all, I make a seasonal joy list. Every 2 or 3 months, I make a list of things that I am looking forward to bring me joy that season. These can either be things that I'm actively going to plan, like it's spring right now, and I wrote on my joy list, do a wildflower hike. Lay in a park and eat raspberries and chocolate chips. This is my hyperfixation right now. Drive with the windows down, singing a Griff song loudly. By the way, if you haven't listened to Griff yet, also hyperfixated with her right now. Spotify her immediately. Her music is so good. But these are all springtime activities, right? So these are things that I'm going to actively try to do because it's magical right now, this time of year. The joy list can also include things that bring me joy that I'm reminding my brain to notice, like the bees buzzing all around all the plants that are blooming in my neighborhood. The fact that it is still sunny at 7 p.m. Oh, so magical. So I'm doing 2 things. I'm intentionally adding more joy to my life, and I am priming my brain to notice the joy that is already all around me. There's this concept in cognitive science called attentional bias. Essentially, your brain gets better at noticing what you repeatedly focus on. So I am repeatedly focusing on the joy and making my brain notice more joy. So those are my seasonal joy lists. I do them every 2 to 3 months. I highly recommend you trying one of your own. It has added so much happiness to my life. And then the other way that I try to savor is what I call micro joy spotting. Basically, I periodically ask my brain throughout the day, what's good here? So if I'm eating a meal, I'm like, what's good here? If I walk into a new room, I'm like, what's good here? And these are meant to be really tiny things. The al dente texture of my pasta, the way that the light is hitting the wall over there just right. What's good here? Each time I do it, it's like a teeny little rep that's building the joy spotting muscle in my brain. What is good here? Like my joy list, it's taking advantage of that attentional bias and teaching my brain to notice what's good, because there's always something good here so that we can wire those neurons together. So I have been doing both of those things pretty regularly. So I do my joy list every 2 to 3 months. I do what's good here throughout every single day, all day. What's good here? Just ask yourself when you sit down to a meal, when you change rooms, when you change locations, when you're in the car, when you're hanging out with friends, what's good here? And that will help with the savoring, and it really will help rewire your brain to feel more happiness. Hack 2, doing what I call a hard reset. You know that feeling when your computer is going kind of sluggishly and you have all these tabs open and you're trying to get things done, but it's all just overwhelming? So you give it a good old-fashioned reboot. And all of a sudden, everything is running quickly and you can't remember what you thought you needed all of those tabs for in the first place. When I am feeling down or overwhelmed or just not in the headspace that I want to be in, I do this for my brain. And the best way that I've found to give my brain that hard reset energy is to do any type of environmental change to change my mental state. Changing your environment can literally change your mind. I've heard versions of this before, like the whole go for a walk to clear your head thing, but I never truly fully understood the why behind it until I started digging into the science. Basically, your brain links certain thoughts and behaviors to specific surroundings. Like if you always sit in the same corner of your couch to doom scroll or to overthink, your brain starts associating that space with those habits. It's something that's called context-dependent memory, and it is wildly powerful. So when you physically shift your environment, even in small ways like going to a coffee shop, going for a walk, even just moving to a different room in your house, you're disrupting those environmental cues, which is going to disrupt the mental patterns and open the door for new thoughts and new moods and new behaviors. And if it's a physical movement, like going for a walk or going to the gym, you're also going to benefit from the immediate effects on your brain chemistry. Physical movement increases your dopamine levels, it boosts your serotonin levels, it elevates your BDNF, which can help with learning, it can help with mood, it can help with stress management. And then if you add a podcast or a book in, that's going to give your brain new inputs to latch onto. One of my all-time favorite studies, I talk about this all the time because I am obsessed with it, but it found that reading for just 6 minutes decreased stress by 68%. Which I don't know about you, but when my stress drastically drops, I get way happier. Both podcasts and books help spark new ideas, and they also get us out of our own lives and heads and into other people's lives, which can help create empathy and a feeling that we're just not alone in our shit. So there are clearly a few ways into this hard reset, but I like to have options because when I'm feeling like I'm in a funk, sometimes it's too hard for me to get my butt to the gym. Sometimes all I've got in me is a podcast walk. Sometimes all I've got in me is hauling my body to my front stoop to read a book for a few minutes. But in general, to do a hard reset, think. Change your environment, both in your head and around you. And if you really want a gold star, change both. Change what your brain is taking in, both in terms of what's around you, your environment, but also what's going into your brain, the content that you're consuming. And you will feel a noticeable difference. While we are talking about this, I'm just going to do a quick PSA. I am not going to make exercise its own hack because I feel like we've all been told to just work out a zillion times, and these are supposed to be surprising happiness hacks that you have not heard yet. However, I still feel like I must give it a quick moment because if you could turn exercise into a pill, it would be the single most effective thing that you could take for your mental health. It's like basically taking a cocktail of mood-boosting chemicals, of dopamine, of serotonin, of endorphins, and it regularly performs as well or even better than antidepressants in studies. My dad is a therapist, and he spends entire sessions working with clients to put together some type of routine where they move regularly because he thinks it makes that big of a difference in outcomes. It helps regulate your stress response, it improves your sleep, which massively improves your mood, and it builds something that psychologists call self-efficacy, which is basically the confidence that you can do hard things. And when I think about what actually makes me feel happier, not in a fleeting way, but in a deep, grounded way, it's when I feel capable. It's when I feel connected to my body, like I truly love myself, which I am proving because I am showing up for myself. My regular gym routine has made probably the single biggest difference in my mental health of anything that I have done, more than meditating, more than all of the other hacks. I do strength training 3 times a week. I do the Stairmaster or an incline walk in high intensity bursts twice a week. I hike once a week, and then I try to walk as much as I can. I take swings around the block all day long, which is so helpful when your energy is flagging and you still have work left to do. I have a treadmill desk. So it is boring, but it is the it girl of happiness hacks. Movement. Do it. Even a 10-minute walk counts, especially a 10-minute walk counts. Okay, happiness hack number 3 is all about combating what's called the arrival fallacy. This is one of my personal top causes of unhappiness. It's that little voice in my head that's like, when you have the #1 podcast, you will be happier. When you have a beautiful home, you will be happier. When you have a group of friends like Sex and the City, you will be happier. And the arrival fallacy shows that while that might be true, it is really only true for a brief period of time because human beings are annoyingly resilient. So basically, we adjust to whatever our circumstances are. This is great for when bad things happen because we deal with them much better than we typically think that we will. But it means that that voice that's telling you, when I get this, when I do this, when this happens, I will be happy, it means that voice is lying. There's so much research on this. So I try to remind myself that even though I think that that thing will make me happy, my brain is just going to adjust. So it really likely will not. So that is step 1, just reminding myself that. Step 2 and step 3 are really fun little psychology tricks. The first is called mental subtraction, and it's sneaky and it's a little grim, but God, is it effective. Here's how you do it. Instead of imagining what your life will be like when you get the thing, imagine your life without something that you already have. Like, what if you had never met your best friend? What if you didn't have your job or your health or your partner? What if you had never adopted your cat? Studies show that imagining the absence of positive things in your life actually increases happiness more than just feeling grateful for them. Because even when we try to feel grateful, we're still in that hedonic adaptation state, that state where we have adjusted to having all of these wonderful things, that state where our resilient selves have made these things the norm. But forcing yourself to imagine life without them snaps your brain out of that state and into a state of true appreciation. Sometimes when Zach is on a plane or if he's out and he doesn't reply to my texts for a while, my brain drifts to a worst case scenario because my brain is super fun like that. And wow, let me tell you how much I care about my podcast being #1 if I picture Zach being gone from my life. It just makes me realize how many of the things that matter I already have, how wildly lucky I am. And it amps up my gratitude more than any gratitude practice that I have ever tried. So if you are feeling brave, try it. Take something that you have in your life and really picture subtracting it. Feel into that and tell me that that does not make you feel appreciative as all get out about the present. The other thing that I like to do to combat the when I's is to follow the thread. This is based on the idea from behavioral psychology that action creates emotion, not the other way around. So instead of waiting until you feel confident or successful or worthy to do the thing, you do the thing now and your brain catches up. The actual action step here is super simple. You ask yourself, if the thing that I'm waiting for already happened, what would I do today? So if, for example, you're thinking, when I lose weight, I will feel confident. What would confident you do? Maybe she wears the outfit in the back of her closet that she keeps saving for later. Maybe she signs up for a dance class. Maybe she lets someone take her photo instead of dodging the camera. One of my when I's is having my dream house. So the first question is, when I have my dream house, I will what? I'll relax. I will feel cozy. What do I think dream house me or wealthy me would do today? Would she make a pot of tea and read by the window? Would she host a dinner party with fresh flowers on the table and a really abundant, beautiful, delicious cheese board? The point isn't to fake it. It's to figure out what feeling you're chasing, whether that's peace or freedom or beauty or stability, and then find one small way to bring that feeling into your life today. Because we have access to a lot more of those feelings than we think. And actually, we should not be giving this future fantasy credit for things that we have the power to bring into our lives today. So that is hack 3. Combat the when I's by using mental subtraction and by asking, what is the feeling that you're chasing? And what is one small way that you can bring that feeling into your life today? Moving on to hack 4. This one is super relevant to the world that we live in right now. It can feel like all of these terrible things are happening. We're being exposed to more of the horrors of the world than we ever have before in history. And it all feels like it is out of our control. There's research around how feeling like we don't have control over big things translates into us feeling like we have less control over little things. Our brain essentially generalizes that idea that our actions do not really matter, which leads to increased stress, depression, and anxiety. I think a lot of us are feeling this right now with everything going on in our country and in the world at large. But there is this flip side that I love, which is that even tiny actions that give us a sense of control can interrupt that pattern. Even small boosts in perceived control has been shown in studies to significantly lower cortisol levels and improve mood, aka less stress and more happiness. This is why I'm always saying action is the antidote to anxiety. And these can be tiny actions that are about the thing that is causing your unhappiness. Like you can ask yourself, what's a tiny action that I can take about climate change? Maybe like donating to a nonprofit or following a few Substacks that keep you super informed about that issue. Or if you're unhappy about your job, you can say maybe, what's one small way that I can have agency here? Maybe it's going for a walk on your lunch break or not answering emails after hours or asking for a raise. But this is where it gets really interesting. The research shows that you can even take small actions in different areas of your life, and it'll increase your sense of general power and agency. And that will decrease your stress and increase your happiness. My rule is that I do one thing a day that makes me feel in charge of my life, that shows me my micro agency. It does not have to be big. In fact, it should not be big. It can be reading a book during my lunch break. It can be planning a meal that I want to eat, even if Zach would choose something else completely. I love personally deciding when I check my email versus letting my email be essentially a to-do list that's dictated for me by other people. So I try to do one thing that reminds me of my control, of my agency, of my power every single day. And then I will also use this hack when it feels like my unhappiness is coming from things that feel scary and outside of my control. I will ask myself, what is one thing that I can do that is in my control right now? Where does my agency lie? If I'm doom scrolling, if I'm just feeling like the world is chaotic, the world is crazy, I ask myself, what is one thing that is in my control right now? Where is my agency? I know that it is somewhere, so I force myself to find it. And it always, always makes a huge difference. So those are my 4 hacks. First, savoring or training your brain to notice and linger in joyful moments, whether it's through a seasonal joy list or asking what's good here throughout your day. Second, trying a hard reset, changing your environment to change your mind. Move rooms, go for a walk, grab a book, or put on a podcast to shift your mental state. Third, fight the arrival fallacy by doing 2 things, using mental subtraction, so imagining life without the good things that you already have in it, and following the thread. So asking yourself what future you would do today if you had that thing, and then go do that, even if it's in a really teeny tiny way. Fourth, creating micro agency moments, one small action a day that reminds your brain that you are in charge, that you have control. You can rearrange your space. You can say no to something. You can choose your own lunch. Tiny things count. These are all free. They are all fast. They are all backed by science. And most importantly, they work. Try even just one of them this week and see how you feel and let me know. If this episode made you think, if it made you smile, if it felt helpful, if it gave you a new tool to try, I would be so grateful if you shared it with a friend. We all deserve to feel a little happier, a little more in control. And the more people that this show reaches, the more that we can grow this community together and the more that I can continue to create amazing episodes and helpful content for you. I want to give a huge thank you to the brand partners who make this show possible and totally free for you to listen to. If you want to support the pod and save money on some amazing products, you can check out all of our current discount codes at lizmoody.com/codes. And if you haven't already, make sure that you have hit that follow button on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on YouTube, wherever you're listening. We drop new episodes every Monday and Wednesday, and following is the easiest way to make sure that you never miss out on one. You can also watch full video episodes on Spotify and on YouTube as well. And come hang out with me on Instagram. I'm at Liz Moody. I share tons of tips behind the scenes of my life, how I'm personally applying everything that we talk about on the podcast in my real life. If we are not friends yet on Instagram, come hang out. I am at Liz Moody. You're going to get tons of tips and tricks. You're going to see how I'm applying everything that we talk about on the podcast in my real life. Okay, thank you so much for being here. I am so aware that you could choose to spend this time with anyone, doing anything, and you chose to spend it with me. I love you, I appreciate you, and I will see you on the next episode of the Liz Moody Podcast. Oh, just one more thing. It's the legal language. This podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. It is not intended as a substitute for the advice of a physician, a psychotherapist, or any other qualified professional.